Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me Shreyansi Singh, and with me as always is Snehisha. Over the next 1 hour, we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe. Of course, we'll be telling you which stocks you should keep on your radar and what the brokerages are saying, but the D-Day is finally here after 2 months of a long wait. So, Snehi, lots to watch out for today, isn't it?
Absolutely, lots to watch out for in terms of what's happening on the news front and also the impact that's going to be seen on the markets today and tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. So let's get started then and take a look at the roundup that we have coming in with elections then.
Well, absolutely, and let's also start the show then. And D-Day has finally arrived after a 2-month long wait, with the counting just very close today. All eyes will be pinned on whether the National Democratic Alliance will script a return to power for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, making it a hat-trick, or can the opposition's India Bloc defy the exit polls and pull off a surprise? Remember, all exit polls have predicted a thumping majority for the NDA, with the BJP expected to outperform its own 2019 tally of 303 seats. Let's go across to Navika Kumar, Group Editor, Times Network, and get a detailed insight of what's in store today. Navika, thanks so much for joining us. Now, PM Modi has, on more than one occasion said that tough decisions will be taken when he returns for the third term. What's the buzz in the political circles? Are economic reforms, line divestment, etc. on the cards? Just give us a mood check of everything that's happening.
Well, if the Prime Minister and the BJP come back with a thumping majority that some polls have shown, then for the opposition, there is only one route that they can take, which is more and more disruptions in Parliament, more and more agitations. You can expect more agitations in the third term of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Also, what you will see the opposition doing is keeping on raising the rhetoric about democratic values, about constitutionality. They will continue to criticize. The pitch will be higher, the demonstrations will be higher, because the opposition, if they are out of power for 15 years and have to make themselves relevant, going that route is the only option for them to stay relevant. And is this going to be easy for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP government? No, it is not, which is why it will be very important for the Prime Minister, and that is why he has been saying that tough decisions will be taken. If he treats these protests and demonstrations lightly, there will be more to pay for, and if the results give a big majority to him, we can be totally sure that he is going to deal with them with an iron hand.
Right, Navika, this is Shreyansi also joining in the conversation. So the pertinent question then is, if BJP returns with a thumping majority as exit polls predict, what role do you foresee for the Congress as well as other opposition parties in the years to come? Also, will it empower the government to play a bigger role in setting the global agenda then, especially now that India is being seen as a military and economic counterweight to China then?
Clearly, there is one agenda that the Prime Minister has, and that agenda is to take India's economy only one way, that is upwards. Third in the world is what he wants India's economy to be. So you can expect reforms in every field. Companies Act, Direct Tax Code, making ease of business a reality, looking at how to create investments in this country. That is the biggest agenda for the Prime Minister, because if India grows and does economically well, it will help to actually give the fruits of development to the people of India at the lowest levels of economic strata of the society. So yes, expect all the reforms, whether it is labor reforms, whether it is land reforms, whether it is tax reforms, all of that will be top of Prime Minister's agenda, and you will begin to see all of this from the first budget session that will happen sometimes probably in July. And the 100-day agenda is already set. That will be more a people's agenda, but the first budget will have the economic agenda charting the vision and the course over the next 5 years, and that will come within the first 30 days or 40 days of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term. So if it's a hat trick, I'm writing an if to this only because till the results are in, there is always going to be some amount of questions that will hang in the air, but it is a done deal that economy will be his top priority.
All right, seems like it is a done deal as of now. Navika, thanks so much for joining us bright and early here on ET Now. Let's move on then and hear in from what market experts are making of this event that's been happening. And Swaminathan Iyer, consulting editor, ET Now, says that the Modi 2.0 government was disrupted by COVID, Ukraine war and the El Nino. Although when we compare ourselves with other countries, it was seen we have done much better. Listen in to what he's expecting if the government actually does remain stable.
Look, Modi too was very seriously disrupted by COVID, by Ukraine, and if you like, in this last year, it was disrupted again by El Nino. So these were extremely difficult times. Modi soldiered through it, and I would say that if now for 3 years in a row you had more than 7% growth, the first year I would neglect because it was a recovery from COVID. But in the next 2 years, if you have done so well, at a time when a number of other countries, look at all your neighbors. Pakistan is with the IMF, Sri Lanka is with the IMF, Bangladesh, which is the same GDP as us, Bangladesh is with the IMF. And we are rock solid and doing 8.2. So Mr. Modi will say there may be certain reforms that failed. He failed to persuade the farmers that we have to change the entire farming system. I mean, there was this huge farm revolt against him. He retreated and said, okay, I am not going to take this on. In Modi 1, he had, for instance, tried to take on land acquisition. He retreated. Again, in Modi 2, one of the things that he retreated on, perhaps, was whether we have a national register of citizens, which the Muslim community is extremely afraid of. That is a non-economic subject. But I mean, these were some of the areas. Mr. Modi has shown that he is capable of retreating when he comes across a very serious resistance. But he will plow ahead, and he will be extremely satisfied with what has actually happened. I will just say this. In some ways, he's been lucky. I wrote a column the other day saying, India's greatest achievement, not Modi's greatest achievement, India's greatest achievement in this Modi era has been the rise of global capability centers. According to various estimates from various sources, we now have perhaps up to 4,000 multinationals with a total revenue of more than 100 billion.
Then that was the word coming in from ET Now's consulting editor Swaminathan Iyer. But let's get a move on then, and the market is clearly pricing in a third term for the Modi government, and capex stocks seem to be the theme every brokerage house is bullish on. But what's the way forward then? Anisha is standing by with the highlights of what brokerages are saying.
Consensus seems to be the fact that exit polls are projecting a better victory for BJP than 2019, as well as what the street was estimating. And that's the clear conviction which is playing out in the markets right now. And the other big consensus is the domestic cyclicals, the likes of capex, industrials, defense, PSUs, these are the ones where most of the brokerage houses are positive on. But let me start with what Mahesh Nandurkar of Jefferies has to say. He believes that, of course, the exit poll verdict seems to be sentimentally positive for the capex stocks, but it's a small and mid-cap space which can take a bit of a breather right now, given the run-up that we have seen. And the good tactical trade perhaps would be to bet on the laggards, which have been the large cap. So that's the view coming in from Jefferies. Shifting focus to Nomura there, and then they say that perhaps the exit poll has paved the way for the FPI flows to come back into the Indian markets, and that's why they believe that the domestic sectors, particularly infrastructure, manufacturing, capex theme, is likely to outperform in the near term as well. That's what Sonal had to say. Moving on to what Venugopal Gare of Bernstein had to say, they believe that market might touch those levels of 23,500 given the exuberance around exit polls as well as election verdict, but post that there might be a bit of correction, and then if you look at the entire year, the expectation should be of a high single-digit return from the Nifty. CLSA's Vikas Sharma as well as Indraneel believe that Indian economic cycle is driven by global cycle rather than who rules in Delhi, and the market seems to have pretty much priced in what's 3.0 going to be like with the Modi government. Lastly, Gautam Duggar of Motilal Oswal, he says that political ramifications of this verdict are going to be much more far-reaching, which means the likes of unified labor reforms as well as farm laws, all of these might get taken place because the Modi government will get the political mandate and the political backing with the kind of size of majority that they're getting, that they'll be able to push through all of these reforms, and this of course is going to boost the political capital. They are overweight on financials, consumptions, industrials as well as real estate as a theme.
Well, Anisha, thanks so much for taking us through that. Now, with the election outcome in the forefront and largely priced in policy continuity, which will foreign investors start parking their funds back into India again? And also, what's next for the market after the polls? Hear out opinions from the biggest voices, the likes of Nilesh Shah, Sandeep Tandon, Porinju Veliat, as well as Manish Dangi on what they had to say.
The global investors, I think it's going to be impossible for them now to ignore India, not just as emerging market allocation, but essentially to be a mainstream market where they make substantially higher allocations, because obviously they have been apprehensive about continuity of policy for the next 5 years. Here now what you have is essentially a continuity, stability, and maybe a turbocharged policy calendar for the next 5 years. And I think that's what they basically would be looking forward to.
India P multiple will expand further. A lot of FIs have exited India, highlighting that India has been very expensive related to other emerging market. I think they will be forced to come back. Okay, and I'm using the very strong word. They will be forced to come back when they see this outperformance continue and the P expansion. They themselves, their inflows will actually further increase the P multiple of this overall India as a basket.
I think the short position of FIAs, we should not give too much importance, except for the very short term, there could be some covering. But anyway, it's only minuscule of their total holding in India, bet on India in the equities. So that way, I think they also will be happy for the market going up. So need not worry about FIAs, I feel.
Return of Modi actually is absolutely loved by bonds, because it sort of assures that this small risk of high fiscal deficit and potentially very high inflation has gone. Modi regime's policy have ensured that even in a growth such as what we are experiencing right now, core inflation is below 4%. So you would see more of it over the next few years. That means a sort of legitimately a secular and rather very big bull market can happen in bond markets over the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Short-term players will indulge in profit booking. I mean, as they say that buy on rumor, sell on news. So today is essentially the day when the markets are reflecting the exit polls. Tomorrow is 24 hours from now. We will essentially have visible trends in terms of which way the verdict is flowing. I don't think anybody has doubts about which way this verdict is going. But it's very likely that you might see some profit booking happen because that's essentially the kind of nature of business in which short-term players are in. But long-term players, I still think they will continue to kind of come in. And clearly, when you take a 3 to 5 year perspective, markets essentially are not expensive. Markets are reasonable. There will be pockets of where valuations are way more attractive. And that's where money will flow in.
It's going to be a very interesting time ahead. There will be a lot of volatility. At the same time, for the long-term investors, see the long-term trajectory for India, India's economy and Indian stock market. It's very clear. It is very bullish. Equity will continue to be the best asset class. Indian equities, if you see any asset class in the whole world, not only in India. So that way, there is going to be, more and more fancy for Indian stocks. I expect more and more FIA inflow into the market in the coming years.
That was a verdict coming in from the experts, but let's take a look at visuals on your screen shortly. And then on your screens, you do have the visuals of BJP workers performing a Havan. Visuals are coming from BJP headquarters. Of course, this was the second longest since India's first election. And the verdict is something that we're all keeping an eye on. On your screens, you have the visuals from BJP's headquarters. But on that note, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you some more news and updates.
Hi there, welcome back. We're getting some fresh visuals of the counting that is taking place as of now, and the first set of visuals right now are trickling in from Pune, and Lok Sabha elections 2024 counting day has kick-started. What you're seeing on your screen is coming from Koregaon Park in Pune. That's the counting center at Koregaon Park, and well, these are live visuals coming from there. We also have some visuals coming from the counting center at Prabhat Kumar College, which is in West Bengal. And we'll switch to that very quickly as well. But well, yes, what you're seeing is that counting is going to begin in a very short while from now, and everybody is assembled, and well, it's all going in top gear. And very soon, by the end of the day, we're going to know who's going to form the government once again. But let's get a move on. Let's take a look at what the world has been doing while we have been focusing on elections. Let's start with what's been happening at Wall Street. And well, yesterday, a technical issue at the New York Stock Exchange affected price quotes of several stocks earlier yesterday, but trading returned to normal around midday. Now, let's also take a look at, on an individual basis, what's been happening. The Dow Industrial began trading yesterday with a decline after weak US manufacturing data raised concerns about the strength of the economy. Banks, industrials and other shares dependent on economic growth led the pullback. Let's also see individually what all of these three indices have done. Dow has closed the day 0.3% lower yesterday. S&P and Nasdaq, however, have managed to close in the greens. You have S&P 500 with an uptick of 0.1%. Not much happening, but in the green nonetheless. And for Nasdaq also 0.5% in the green, so that index did pretty well for itself yesterday. Now, cyclical stocks whose fortunes are closely tied to economic growth slid, with the energy, industrials, materials sector closing in the red. Earlier, the US manufacturing sector showed signs of slowing, with the ISM manufacturing index measuring 48.7 in May, sending treasury yields and the dollar lower. Let's also take a look at what the treasury bonds are up to, and well, 4.406 is where the bond treasury 10-year bond yield is as of now. Remember, when it comes to manufacturing, a reading below 50 is an indication of a contraction. So let's see how that pairs for the markets today as well. And well, yesterday NVIDIA rose nearly 5% because that stock is seeing no stopping. This after announcing a new suite of artificial intelligence chips, a sign it is prepared to fight to stay ahead in the highly competitive space. The chip maker said it will upgrade its AI chip architecture on an annual basis. Now, the first week of June is also brimming with further economic updates. Investors are awaiting private payroll data tomorrow from ADP, followed by the May jobs report on Friday. Investors appear to want some economic slowing that would give the Fed Reserve the green light to cut interest rates, but not too much of a slowdown that would raise fears of a recession. Largely, this is what has been happening across the US markets, but let's also shift a little bit and talk about what's up with Europe, because European markets have started the month higher yesterday, extending last week's rally as investors look ahead to the European Central Bank's latest interest rate decision later this week. Shares of British pharma company GSK fell to the bottom of the Europe WIPE benchmark, dipping 9.2% before pairing losses slightly on news that it was set to face a jury trial over its allegations that its Zantac heartburn drug caused cancer. Now, the ECB is widely expected to cut interest rates for the first time since 2019 when policymakers meet on Thursday. This is notable as it would mean the central bank moved before the US Fed Reserve, which tends to lead the monetary policy for itself as well the rest of the world. However, investors will watch closely to see whether a slightly higher than expected Eurozone inflation print on Friday will alter the bank's path going forward. But on an individual basis, DAX was up 0.6%, FTSE slightly under pressure, down 0.1%, and the Pan-European Stock 600 index holding up smartly with gains of 0.3%. But Shreyansi, while this was your US and what Europe was up to, also tell us what crude is doing.
Absolutely, and it's very interesting what we're seeing play out with the crude prices, right? Because what you're seeing right now is that US crude oil fell more than 3%, and that was as OPEC Plus announced plans to phase out voluntary production cuts totaling 2.2 million barrels per day, and a coalition of 8 OPEC Plus members led by Saudi Arabia and Russia announced on Sunday that they would be beginning to phase out those cuts over the course of 12 months starting in October, and the planned phase out, however, will be subject to market conditions, and that could be reversed. That is the verdict coming in from OPEC as well. And OPEC is also keeping separate tranches of production cuts totaling about 3.6 million barrels per day in place until the end of 2025. So that largely is the move coming in. And when you look at oil prices, then what you're looking at is a more than 3% fall, like I mentioned. So when you look at WTI, you're looking at prices around $74 a barrel and a downtick of 3.6%. On a year-to-date basis, though, that contract has gained about 3.6%. And when you look at Brent as well, that was down about 3.3%, and year-to-date, that one has also gained about 1.7%. Of course, under the OPEC plan, there is more than 500,000 barrels per day that will be returning to the market by December, and 1.8 million barrels per day that will be coming back by June of 2025. OPEC, of course, is facing a conundrum when you look at member states having a lower budget and as well as their move to sort of ramp up prices at this point. And they can't do it too aggressively because then that would weigh on prices as well, in that the prices would be higher and that would weigh on demand rather. So that largely is the move coming in, a 3% fall coming in with oil prices. But let's also take stock of what Asian markets are doing then. And Asia stocks largely dipped after kicking off June on a solid ground, with investors also awaiting the final results of India's general elections like the rest of us. Now, Japan's Nikkei on your screen is down about 0.5% thereabout, was previously down about 0.6%. And South Korea's Kospi also in the red, currently down about 0.4%, should be on your screen shortly. And then you also have Hang Seng that edged marginally higher. Kospi there on your screen, down about 0.4% as of now. And Hang Seng was the only index holding up, edging marginally higher and currently just up about 0.4%. In Shanghai, there's a slight downtick as well on the flip side. So you have Shanghai that was down 0.2% on your screens, and ASX 200 as well was down about 0.1% and currently is around those levels as well. Now back home, of course, we closed around the 23,263 mark rather, and then what the Nifty implied on the bottom of your screen is penciling in is a good gap up open, especially on a spot basis, and even on a futures basis. We're looking at a good start. So let's see how that pans out for us, Snehi.
Well, absolutely. Big moves we did see coming in on the index yesterday. A 3% uptick is where Nifty closed for the day. So let's see if we are able to sustain on that momentum. However, GIFT Nifty implying a good start, but not as big as yesterday. But let's move on then. And SEBI has launched the Saarthi 2.0, an upgraded mobile app designed to simplify personal finance for investors. Featuring a user-friendly interface, financial tools, and educational content, the app aims to provide unbiased, reliable investment information. Now available on Google Play and the iOS app stores. My colleague Anuraksha has more details on this app. Listen.
In era of a social media where there is so much overflow of information, and in this overflow of information at times investor get misleading information also, and that can impact their decision making of investing. So to overcome this and to have a more reliable and trustworthy information regarding the decision making only, SEBI has launched a new app, Saarthi 2.0, which will give a reliable information to the investor to make their decision making. I have also downloaded this app, and a couple of features are there in this app. So one important feature this app provides is a financial tool and calculator, which have SIP calculator, inflation calculator, EMI calculator, rate of return calculator, bond yield calculator, SIP goal calculator, standard compound interest calculator. So this is a calculator where an investor can calculate about their goals. Other than that, this app also provide how to make your nomination related to your securities, how to apply in IPO through ASBA process, that has also been mentioned. Consolidated account statement about your all investment, how to get that, market about the index and Sensex and Nifty, information about that bull market, bear market, the complete detailed study about that. That all information has been given in this Sarthi app. Apart from that, it also mentioned that what types of caution need to be there for investors. Other information about the money matters, how to understand money, investment avenues, how you can grow. So detailed videos are there about KYC procedure, depository services, IPOs. So trusty, reliable source of information to get the information provided in this app. So purpose of launching this app only is that investor can have a reliable, trustworthy information so they can make informed decisions about their investments.
All right, thanks Anurag for all of those important details then. That's the latest coming in as far as the Sarthi 2.0 app is concerned. But on that note, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you some more election related updates. So you don't go anywhere.
Hi there, welcome back. Let's get you straight to the ground and with the live action that everything has been happening because we're just minutes before the counting begins. Let's go straight across to our reporters who are standing on ground. We have Sumit and Sumita from the BJP headquarters and Samir is also joining us from the Congress headquarters. But Sumita, tell us first what the mood is like. Give us a vibe check. What's happening? Is there a lot of excitement being seen?
Yes, in fact, it's been a high-stakes battle, so excitement is palpable, excitement is quite obvious. Let me take you to some of the visuals over here. There are preparations. In fact, a couple of people, BJP supporters, have gathered to organize a Havan, and as you can see, they are displaying that 400-par slogan, that 400-par slogan that the Prime Minister has spoken about repeatedly, Sumit, as well. And it is high stakes in the sense that the Prime Minister is looking to be the Prime Minister, the head of the country, for the third time. He's looking to beat the record that was formed by late former Prime Minister Nehru as well. On the other hand, for the Congress party, it is the battle for survival. It is a battle for resuscitation of its party, which has lagged behind since the past two elections. So, Sumit, the markets have already been factoring in policy continuity. The corporates are also looking for continuity. So the BJP, in case it again comes back to power, it has its task cut out.
Well, absolutely. Well, even if you look at what was released yesterday, what PM Modi penned his thoughts while coming from Kanyakumari meditation. Well, he laid out what is going to come possibly if they come to power. First of all, reforms. The reforms will continue. Second, they have the whole thing they are focusing on: reform, perform and transform, speed, scope, standardization. Quality, that is going to be one focus area. Also, they want to do away with outdated thinking and no scope for pessimism. So, in a way, they are going to now once again aim for Viksit Bharat 2047. Reforms will continue. PM Modi-led BJP government and the government will come and take a number of steps or maybe issues which will be there so that the development, all that agenda will be continuing. Well, we have to see whether they come or not. But if they come, yes, that's the path going to be.
Yes, in fact, it is also going to be an exciting election considering that India really enjoys a solid position globally. India is emerging as a reliable partner globally, also being seen as a reliable partner as far as China plus one policy of global corporates is concerned. We've seen the entry of several global corporates like Apple, Micron as well. So that is key. But I think the other big event to be watching out for is, of course, the budget.
Well, absolutely, because what the interim budget this time was just a trailer. Now, big picture is coming. Budget will happen in July as expected. Big reforms, what decisions? It has to be really looked out for, excited.
Yes. Back to you.
All right then, thank you so much Sumita and Sumit for that update coming in right from BJP headquarters. So the trailer, it was just the trailer and the picture is yet remaining, and we'll see how the picture unfolds as well. But thank you so much for joining us with that update. We also have Sameer standing by with the update from the Grand Old Party's office in New Delhi as well. Sameer, tell us what the mood check is like there at the Congress headquarters then.
Yes, firstly, let me show you that what is the current status, what is the ground reality. As of now, you can see that biggest difference that I have also seen, that you see that Congress has done some sort of preparation. You have seen that the tents, it is there. There are some preparation that has been done for the journalists. In addition to this, it is morning, just around 8 o'clock, but you can see that there are multiple posters that are mentioning कि आज देशतंत्र, लोकतंत्र और संविधान जीतेगा या मोदी की EVM. By holding these posters, the supporters, they are having that sort of confidence which has been echoing from their senior leaders as well, that whatever the exit polls that are suggesting the numbers are wrong, but they have shown confidence that this time the India alliance, they are likely to reach to 300 mark. So based on that, the supporters are also quite, they think so that this time Congress will make a turnaround, but the ground reality also suggests that there is some hope that Congress understand, and that can be purely reflected through these sort of arrangements that have been done. So my experience also suggests that in the last two times, when in 2019 I was here and I was reporting for the same, for the general elections, and also during the Delhi state government elections, no such arrangement was done. That was an indication that Congress also understood that their numbers or their performance was not up to the mark. But this time, the kind of preparation that the Congress has done, this raises some sort of hopes that there might be a bit of change in their fortune. But whatever the picture is, that will be cleared by around 11 o'clock, when we can see that initial estimates or the rujhans will be coming in, that will very much clear the picture. But in Congress office, as of now, the Karkartas, the supporters, they are very hopeful. They understand that there are going to be some good numbers that will be coming to their way, and they will give a tough fight to NDA or the BJP.
All right, Sameer, well, some optimism being reflected outside the Congress headquarters. Thanks so much, Sumit, Sumita, as well as Sameer, for joining us this morning and taking us on ground with all the action that's been buzzing. But viewers, with that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe. You stay tuned, because we'll keep reconnecting with our reporters on ground and bring you the latest and the freshest updates of what's been happening with the election counting. But as of now, it's a goodbye from us. You stay tuned. The market takes the action ahead.
Good morning, and you're watching ET Now. Arguably, today is the most important day of the year for Indian capital markets. Well, the markets have voted, but soon we will find out which way India has voted. While post-exit polls, the bears have exited and the bulls have made a comeback.
Oh, absolutely. And talking about bulls, I mean, just look at the FII buy figure yesterday. Over 6,000 crores. You had a gap up, and that managed to sustain pretty much for the better part of yesterday's session. But the big question is whether we're going to replicate yesterday's magic today or not when we actually see the results come in. The counting for which, of course, is going to begin at 8 a.m.
So, Aisha, here's what, we always say that you rely on history to judge what is in store for future. And historically, election cycles have happened. So what we've done is, and this is some back-ended research our research team has put out, what historically has been the reaction to the exit poll, and post the exit poll reaction, how markets actually have reacted on the verdict day. Now, I would urge our viewers, and especially a lot of our young viewers who are first-time investors post-COVID, to really pay attention here. On the exit poll day, this is 2014, ab ki baar Modi Sarkar, Modi, the NDA's first term. On the exit poll day, market appreciated by 2%, 2019, 3.5%, and yesterday was about 3.3%. So the similarity is that the exit poll reaction every time has been
more exaggerated.
Yeah, and it's similar.
Yeah.
It is between 2 to 3%. Similarly, on the verdict day, the reaction actually has not been there. Even the markets have liked the verdict, the market reaction is turning out to be more like a case of buy the rumor and sell the news. So will 2024 be any different? Well, history tells us it may not be different.
Yeah, I mean, look at the verdict day, right? From 2014, when you had a near about 2.5% move on the exit poll day itself, the market was a meager, somber 1% higher the next day when it was the actual verdict day. More importantly, on 2019, when you had a very exaggerated and exuberant move near about almost 4% on the exit poll day, the market was down 0.7%. And might I say, yesterday we've seen the same kind of reaction when the market held out by about 3.5%. And this is just the nifty move that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about individual names here. So it's a big question mark on what happens today. But then again, you know, Nikunj, it's also about the juxtaposition of how the previous elections, what the macro setup was, what the market depth was, and where we stand today, which is a complete contrast.
So Aisha, before we do that, you want to perhaps look at again taking the point slightly forward in terms of what has been the 1 week and the 1 month reaction.
Sure.
See, on an intraday basis, it's pull and pull, it's give and take, it's call and put, it's, you know, resistance and support which are at play. Sentiment plays a very overarching role in the short term. But 1 week after the 2014 election verdict, the market has given you slim gains. It's not like, oh, it is not like an OMG moment or something spectacular. Similarly, in 2019, when the markets liked the verdict, it was much better than what exit polls were indicating. The gains were about 2.5%. And 1 month from now, this is interesting, 2019, the gains actually vanished.
Yeah.
Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that please remember that the positioning this time by the local crowd is high.
Yeah.
The positioning from DI crowd is cautious. Will history repeat itself? It might, at least in some large policy stocks. But in general, the BJP coming back to power, you've seen glimpse of that, how markets excited were. So you may twist, turn, go up here and there, you may hit a near-term peak in some stocks, but BJP coming back to power, I think what really matters is that the medium-term and the long-term cycle changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, just picking up on a few parameters, not just where the index has been, and it's a very deep, broad market that we're talking about now, as opposed to what we had in 2019 and even before that, but just the VIX positioning, the kind of valuations that we are now sitting at. And I'm not just talking about index level. Look at what's happening within the SMID space, for instance, right? It's even more bloated than the large caps. And yes, of course, the FI positioning. That's been, I think, the biggest contrast to what we've seen in the previous election years as opposed to now.
Okay, so the standard feature, again, we are comparing last cycle with the current cycle and the previous cycle with the last cycle, is that the volatility this time around is actually low. It is surprisingly low. So markets, in a sense, were betting on a particular verdict, and the verdict, in a sense, exit polls have really endorsed what markets wanted. Interestingly, when it comes to the big differentiator, and you know, valuations is a judgment argument whether we are expensive or not, we'll talk about it. But the most important differentiating factor is what you will see here now. And folks, pay attention here. The magical number of SIP. So this market is no longer dominated by tips, it is actually dominated by SIPs. And that for us, I think, is the most brilliant analysis, or most standout feature that Indians have participated in this bull market, and in the run-up to the election, the Indian investor was fully committed, the SIP levels were high, but surprisingly, foreign institutional investors in the run-up to the election, they have been surprisingly negative, and they've been very short. So the real surprise factor, Aisha, really could be, I don't think domestic institutional investors would like to now lap up the stocks, but based on yesterday's data, which is what, let's say the FI figure was indicating their positioning, are we in for more reversal and short covering going forward? So for me, that is one differentiating factor, not the joker in the pack, but an important aspect which in a sense could have an impact in the near-term market direction.
Yeah, and I think it's important to tell our viewers, given the kind of move that we had in the market yesterday alone, the way the small and mid-cap space has been, the way large caps have lagged, the FI positioning, and all the factors that you just talked about right now, as to the positioning in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term has to be completely different an approach.
Yeah, I think that's the, that's a differentiating factor, that what may work in the short term may not apply in medium term and will certainly not work in the long term.
True.
So again, just very broad analysis as to how things really stack up. We've seen evidence of that yesterday, short term, which is 1 week to about 1 month. 1 week to 1 month, VIX will collapse, which it has. FIs will come back and short selling, short covering will be evident, in which I think is really happened. What may interestingly happen is that policy related stock after yesterday's rally, have they peaked out or they may hit a pause button? That would be an interesting factor. In the medium term, well, a lot changes. The currency market will become stable, macros will become better, your fiscal concerns will completely fade away, new themes will emerge. For example, in Modi 1, it was focused on digital India, it was focused on really Jan Dhan. The focus of Modi 2.0 really was Atmanirbhar Bharat, China +1 policy, PLI schemes, make India the manufacturing hub. So those are new themes which I think will emerge in the medium term from the agri space, from the land space. That is something you need to watch out for. And I guess what is interesting here would be that if yields come down, if liquidity comes back, then you could be in for outperformance in financials, which is what we all are hoping for.
Yeah, given the kind of underperformance that we've seen in select financials, and we already saw that, right? The FI dominated names, the way they made a comeback. And I think in long term, nothing changes. If you're an India bull, you remain an India bull and you stay invested in the market.
Yeah. So Aisha, what happens, you think 5 years out? What is the number one thing which any investor would want? Stability.
Yeah.
Stability comes with a stable government. And that really has been the USP of India in the last 10 years, that you've had a stable government. There was a time in the last decade that you did not have political stability. Political stability means strong policy reforms. Strong policy reforms mean that there would be a higher recognition of what the India story is, which means your P multiple will remain strong. So the bottom line here is that the wealth creation cycle, which has started post-COVID, long term the wealth creation cycle will extend itself. So all of us as Indians who've invested in stock markets with a disclosure, I think the wealth creation cycle will only extend itself. So next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, valuations are not that rich, stability of the government, you put all those factors together, then I think the wealth creation cycle for a long-term investor continues.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we've got the who's who today to highlight what your short, medium as well as long-term strategy should be and how is it that you should approach the India equities right now. In fact, we've got some of the biggest market voices joining in today. We've got Vallabh Bhansali with his experience of multi-decades. He's seen many governments come and go. So who better than him really to throw light on what really the market's reaction should be and how is it that you should be approaching the India story. We'll also have Ravi Dharamshi join in on the show, Madhusudan Kela. We all know his call on how, he's been betting on the SMID space. So take more, value tips from him on where is it that he sees opportunity in the markets right now. Prashant Jain, Sandeep Tandon. Sandeep Tandon has been extremely bullish on PSUs. So we're going to question him a little bit more about where is it within PSUs that he sees value. Are we going to see a churn within PSUs further or not? Ramdev Agarwal, Vijay Kedia, Nilesh Shah, Purin Juveliad, Samir Arora. It doesn't get bigger than this. Of course, we'll have some global perspective as well. The FI fraternity. Shortly, we'll be joined by Rahul Chadda, Vikas Prasad from M&G Investments, who are all India bulls, and they've been very keenly eyeing this big event. So now that the overhang of the election verdict is over, and soon it will be today, so we're going to find out what is it that their India positioning is going to be. And of course, as always, we'll have our chartists join in to give you trade every 15 minutes and stock ideas. We'll have Kunal Bothra as well join in on the show. We'll also have Sanjeev Bhasin give us stock ideas and Sandeep Sabharwal as well. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Aman in the studios. And I guess we'll have our next guest join in just a few minutes.
We absolutely will. We've got a stellar lineup. Morning, Nikunj and Aisha. And it is, of course, all eyes are pinned on whether or not the NDA is going to script a return to the power with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi making a hat trick this time or not. In fact, let's just garner more perspective as well. We've got Times Network's group editor, Navika Kumar, here to set the context as to what exactly is at stake if the BJP does return with a thumping majority, as what the exit polls really seem to have been predicting. Navika, morning. Thanks so much for taking time out. Let's just understand what kind of a role you're seeing for the Congress, for the other opposition parties in the years to come. And also, is this move really going to empower the government to play a bigger role?
Clearly, there is one agenda that the Prime Minister has, and that agenda is to take India's economy only one way, that is upwards. third in the world is what he wants India's economy to be. So you can expect reforms in every field. Companies Act, Direct Tax Code, making ease of business a reality, looking at how to create investments in this country. That is the biggest agenda for the Prime Minister, because if India grows and does economically well, it will help to actually give the fruits of development to the people of India at the lowest levels of economic strata of the society. So yes, expect all the reforms, whether it is labor reforms, whether it is land reforms, whether it is tax reforms, all of that will be top of Prime Minister's agenda, and you will begin to see all of this from the first budget session that will happen sometimes probably in July. And the 100-day agenda is already set. That will be more a people's agenda, but the first budget will have the economic agenda charting the vision and the course over the next 5 years, and that will come within the first 30 days or 40 days of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term. So if it's a hat-trick, I'm writing an if to this only because till the results are in, there is always going to be some amount of questions that will hang in the air, but it is a done deal that economy will be his top priority.
Thanks for that, Navika. That's really setting the economic agenda. And by the way, the counting now has begun. This is for the election. D-Day finally arriving after a long 2-month wait. And we're tracking this from a 360-degree angle. We're getting you the top market voices. We're getting you top corporate voices, the global and FII community, and our reporters as well, who are on ground standing by. Let me take it across to Sumita Karir, who is joining in along with Sumit Chaturvedi, and they are at the BJP headquarters. I also have my colleague standing by in New Delhi, Sameer Dikshit, at the Congress headquarters. And morning, all of you. Sumita and Sumit, going to come to you first with the exit polls really predicting this thumping majority, with the BJP really expected to outperform its own 2019 tally.
Yes, in fact, that is the expectation that the BJP has. It's been a high-octane election, a bitterly fought election on both sides, the opposition side as well as on the side of the NDA or the BJP. It is a high-stakes battle for a couple of reasons. One, the Prime Minister is looking to break the record of former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, as he's looking for a hat-trick, as he's looking for a third term for his party. Then, on the other hand, you have the Congress party, which is looking for a chance for resuscitation, for its survival. So it is as basic as it gets, and which is why this election, which has been spread over around 2 months, has been really bitterly fought. We've seen a whole host of issues really come up, from wealth tax to polarization. A whole host of other things have really come up. But Sumit, the key agenda remains development, and this is what the Prime Minister also stated in his blog post yesterday.
Well, absolutely. If we read his thoughts, it's going to be reform, 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 and achieving goals towards Viksit Bharat by 2047. That's what is on his mind. Reform, transform and perform, another agenda he is driving it with. Also, he wants to go with scope, speed, standardization. He has also said that let's keep away the pessimism in the economy, and those naysayers, they should be kept aside. So that has been said since long time, but this time I think again walk the talk will happen once again. We have seen over the last few years development happening in road sector, infrastructure sector, banking sector, finance sector. A lot of things have happened, reforms have started which are bearing fruits now, and now we have to see where it goes, how it's continued.
Yes, in fact, that's exactly what we've seen as far as some of the corporate reactions that have been coming in. In fact, the market also pricing in continuity, policy continuity, as far as this government is concerned. And of course, we'll go over to startups and several corporates over the course of, the day to get their reactions on what they really think of the numbers, the trends that start trickling in. In fact, counting of the votes has just begun. So it is going to be a really interesting day, a historic day, really to watch out for. As I said, in fact, the market is already priced in continuity, the exit polls giving a clear majority, but it remains to be seen whether BJP is able to achieve those numbers.
Absolutely. This 400 is a humongous target as being said by some analysts. If it is achieved, definitely it's going to be one of the...
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get some color from Sameer Dikshit as well, my colleague. He's at the Congress headquarters. And Sameer, what's the buzz like? I'm guessing all the joy and the celebrations are at the BJP headquarters. What about the mood there?
So over here at Congress headquarters, the things have changed a bit. Right now, I'm at the headquarters, and let me show you that over here, the preparations have been done by the Congress. You can see the tent that has been placed over here. So the unusual part is that my experience that I have gained in last, I have covered the Delhi state election, even the 2019 general election. But then the mood over here at Congress headquarters was completely different. They were very well aware that they are not going to perform well, and that was the situation that they were not having any such a preparation. But this time, the placement of these tents or providing some sort of relaxing sort of accommodation to the party karkartas or even to the journalists, that is quite a different thing. And this also reflects that the Congress or the India Alliance, they are quite hopeful, they are quite optimistic that they are going to perform much better than the previous elections. Now, in addition to this, if you see the karkartas or the supporters, they have gathered in good numbers over here, but they are also raising multiple slogans. Let me show you that they are wearing these sort of t-shirts. They are showing their support to the India Alliance, and also they are coming up with these sort of posters that mentions the slogan that देश का लोकतंत्र और संविधान जीतेगा मोदी की EVM. So once again, EVM is it is under question on the authenticity, on the credibility of EVM, that is under the question mark. The supporters, they are raising a question, but that's the mood check over here at Congress headquarters. That the thing.